Today is the day, and this is what we're doing. If you know, you know. So doing a little something different today. I'm headed to St. Cloud, Florida. The reason I'm doing this video is because I lived here when I first moved to St. Cloud back in 2005 up through roughly 2015, early 2016. And I just have a lot of cool memories from this place. I'd like to revisit a few locations and see how they look today. I know that it's definitely grown up a lot since when I was there. I do still have friends that live in St. Cloud, and they've been keeping me updated, and I've been back to St. Cloud. It's not like I haven't been back in 10 years. I just don't go back that often. I'll go back here and there and for various things to meet with friends and pop into a certain restaurant, things like that. But overall, I just have some cool memories from this place. And honestly, I've been watching a lot of Jim Williams videos, Adam's father, and they live in St. Cloud. So I wanted to, that just kind of spurred my desire to go back and see some of these old sites in St. Cloud. He's been doing a lot of videos from St. Cloud, and you know, everywhere he goes, like, oh, I remember that. Oh, that's a cool place. So I just thought it'd be a good time to go back and check out some of the spots I used to hit up in St. Cloud myself and where I used to live. So we are now at the St. Cloud lakefront. Cannot begin to count how many times I was down here, how many hours I spent down here, not only just coming down for a nice day out, for a walk, for a run. I had a few brief times where I would do jogging and things like that. I would do it down here at the lakefront. We came down here for years for the 4th of July celebration. They do a big fireworks display over the lake. Did that many years in a row. Came down here to take advantage of the restaurants, just the overall ambiance of the place. There's a beach section over there as well. We've never really used that too much, but a lot of people do, and it's a great place to come and hang out if you live here in St. Cloud. And it's really pretty, just so beautiful out here this time of year. Obviously, like anywhere in Florida, if you're out here in the summer, it's going to be hot and miserable, but right now, this time of year, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. This is another one of the reasons why I decided to do this video at this time of year, you know, in February, versus trying to do it in June or July, August, when it's absolutely miserable out. So I'm just gonna walk around this place, show a couple of highlights of some things that that this place offers, and then move on to some other things. Now, this used to be called Krabby Bill's. I remember for years we would always make fun of the sign and how it was called Krabby Bill's. Now it's definitely been updated and modernized, and they dropped the Bills, and it's just Krabby's on the lakefront, which is actually located right there. And ironically, in all the 10 years or so I lived here, I never once ate here. I was down here all the time, but never once ate at Krabby Bill's. Now, this is something that's new to me. This was not here when I lived here. And from what I understand, it is something fairly new. But they have sort of paddle boat rides that go out across the lake, Lake Toho. Now I'm going to take a walk out this, I don't know if you'd call it a pier, but it's roughly a pier that goes out into the lake, and you can get a little better view of the waterway from out there. Okay, I've made my way out mostly towards the end of the pier here. So you can kind of see where we are now. It is permissible to fish here, so you'll see that as well. Like that. I will not be diving or swimming from the pier, don't worry. As you can tell, this lake is massive. So that was the pier here at the St. Cloud Lakefront. Headed back now towards sort of the main area. And I remembered a funny story, funny now, that happened to me many years ago right up here. I'll detail that when I get there. I really hope you can hear me okay. It's pretty windy out here on the water. But beautiful day, beautiful day. Warm, it's about pushing 80 right now, which is a bit of a shock to the system considering it's been the cold snap that we went through, that the whole country went through. It obviously affected us down here in Florida as well, basically giving us about 20 degrees below our normal temps for this time of year. But it's beautiful today, absolutely wonderful spring day. So the funny story that happened to me many years ago, this was 2011, so at least 15 years ago now, I was in one of my periods where I was getting serious again about my photography. I was doing some model shoots, and I was shooting a lady who here at the lakefront with the using that kind of stuff as the background. And I was shooting right in this area here at the base of, you see there where the pier goes out. Well, I was shooting some photos over here, and I was so focused on what I was doing that what I didn't pay attention to was basically this right here. That is the remnants of and you can see several of them, the remnants of some fire ant mounds. And so I was wearing sandals that day because we were shooting at a hot time of year. So I was wearing sandals, and the next thing I know, I step right in the middle of one of those things. I'm actually watching my step as I walk now. Don't want to recreate the history as I'm describing it, but I stepped right in the middle of one of those mounds, and my foot lit up like you shot an electric volts through it. It hurt so bad. But here's the funny part. I don't think to this day, I don't think that the lady I was shooting ever even realized it happened, because I just stayed in the mode because I was getting the photos. And I just grimaced and worked my way through it. Wow, that was not fun. That hurt. But anyway, so now 11 years or 15 years later, it's funny. A whole flock of those, I believe those are ibis. Now these areas, I don't know what they're called, where they have these little water inlets separated from the main lake, which is just over there. But from what I understand, they're here to somehow prevent flooding, something along those lines. But as you can see, the lakefront stretches we're looking west now, stretches way down there to the end, quite a ways. That's the stretch I used to come down here when I would jog, and I would run all the way down. There's a paved, not parking lot, but paved sidewalk over there. And I would run I would park all the way down at the end. I would run all the way down here to these buildings and then run all the way back. Yes, there are gators in this water. Over the years, I definitely saw my share hanging out. Not big guys, I just saw some of the little ones, little babies and maybe 3-footers, things like that. But yeah, they're there. That's a rule of thumb to live by, is if it's a body of water in Florida, there's a gator in it. You can guarantee it. Hey buddy, what are you doing? Little guy poking his head out. Lots of turtles down here, as you see as well. As you can see, this is the beach area of the St. Cloud lakefront. They have stuff there for beach volleyball and a way to access the water. But this is the beach area. Never really utilized this when we lived here, but it's a nice effect, or nice thing to have. So this next spot I've arrived in is a bit of a different one for me. I'm doing, this is the first time I've been here, but this behind me is the old sugar mill ruins here in St. Cloud, Florida. This is the spot where Adam the Woo did his first ever video, probably, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago. And this is the spot. And ironically, he came back and did a couple more videos this year, excuse me, 2025, the year he passed, and came back here and did a couple more videos. So I just wanted to kind of stop by here. I've never seen it before, but that's it right back there. There is a dated reference. I saw the sign, Ace of Base. That song was popular around, what, 1995, 1996? About 30 years ago. Here's just a random spot where you see all those U-Haul trucks. They used to have a storage center there, a storage closet or bin or whatever you want to call it there for probably about the first 3 or 4 or 5 years I lived here. Right in there. And that's actually where I rented the U-Haul from to move my stuff when I moved out of St. Cloud. These apartments through there, it's the first place I lived when I moved to St. Cloud back in 2005. Back then it was called Neptune Bay Apartments. Now they've changed the name to Soleil Blue Luxury Apartments. I don't know how luxurious they were. They were good. But anyway, this is where I first lived for the first 3 years I was here. So from the summer, basically early July of 2005 until, I want to say, summer of 2007. No, must have been 2008. Lived here in an apartment that overlooked the lake that was in the middle. It was a nice place. Had a gym that I used to use on a regular basis. It was, neighbors were friendly. It was a good place. Had a little recreational place in the back with basketball courts, tennis courts, that kind of thing. Anyway, yeah, I enjoyed my time here, but this was definitely a lot of memories in this place for sure. Okay, this is blowing my mind. I had no idea this was still here. I used to come here for breakfast all the time. I thought it was long gone because I know they closed a ton of their restaurants down across the country, and I assumed this was one of them, but apparently not. It's still there and going. Wow. That is so cool. Okay, here's a random spot, but this is just across 192 from Neptune Bay, where I first lived, and the Village Inn and all that, where I had breakfast all the time. This lot here where you see the construction looks like something's finally happening. So the story behind this lot here that's being constructed was that when I moved here in 2005, there was a Chinese all-you-can-eat buffet. It had already been closed, but it was here. It was here for the first couple of years, then it was torn down and it was an empty lot. And for the next 8 of those years, I would say there was always, every couple of years, there'd be a new sign saying that something was coming. Nothing ever was built here. And this was, we're talking 21 years ago. Nothing has ever been built here. Well, now I actually see that there's construction equipment. They're flattening it out. It looks like something will finally, after 20 plus years ago, the sign going up saying something's coming soon. It is actually coming soon. Now this Walmart here I shopped at on a fairly regular basis. It was it was not a great Walmart. It was a little ghetto, but sometimes by Walmart standards it wasn't too bad. But yeah, I shopped here many times. Okay, so while this is not the first Publix I ever shopped at, that was actually when I lived in Nashville, Tennessee. This was the first local Publix that I would shop at on a regular basis after I moved here, because this is only about a block from where I showed you Neptune Bay Apartments was. So I'm gonna go in here for the first time in at least 10 years.
They're getting big. She called them for sure.
Definitely brings back memories. Wow. Now, I didn't just come in here just to show the Publix. I mean, I can show you a Publix anywhere. I actually need to get a water because, wow, it's getting thirsty running around out there in 80-degree weather. So the next place I'm going by is the second place I lived in St. Cloud. After living in Neptune Bay Apartments from 2005 to 2008, we moved into a house over here on 5th Street and lived there for about 2 years, from 2008 to 2010. Now it has been a minute, so I want to see if I can figure out which house it was. But it's coming up here on the right. It's the one with the flagpole, I believe. Yep, that's the one that's sort of beige colored front. That one right there. Lived there for about 2 years, from 2008 to 2010, before I moved down to a house on Kelsey Lane, which is down there a little ways. I don't think I'm gonna be going down that far today on this tour. That was a neat little house. Had a lot of fun memories there as well. The Value Pawn and Jewelry you see ahead there used to be a Blockbuster. I lived here even so long ago that there were still Blockbusters around, the actual physical brick and mortar Blockbuster stores. Right around the time they were going online, trying to compete with Netflix, and back even before, well before streaming services. This was when Blockbuster and Netflix would, you would go online, put down what movies you wanted, and then as they became available, they would mail them to you in these envelopes, and then you'd watch them, put them back in the envelopes, and mail them back to them. It's hard to believe that was only 20 years ago that was happening. But that was a Blockbuster. I used to go in there rent movies. I even tried to get a job there once, honestly, right before I got involved in higher ed, which I've been doing for 20 years now. I tried to get a job there and just didn't work out, but interesting. So this rest of the shopping center, I have a funny story about where you see the, I believe it was, I'm not sure exactly, it might be where the Rodeo Diner is now, but it used to be a Chinese place. And I use the term loosely because I love Chinese food, but it was the only place. I went there with a couple of friends of mine, and I ordered a chicken dish, and obviously I have chicken practically every meal for my entire life. That was not chicken. It was not chicken. It was not beef. It was not pork. It was not seafood. It was nothing I had ever tasted before. And wow, yeah, I took one bite of that food and said, I'm good. I did not have any more of that. And needless to say, never went back to that spot again. Yikes. Coming up around the corner here was a former location of Gold's Gym. It is now Fitness CF. I'm assuming the CF stands for Central Florida. But that was a Gold's Gym for many years, and I had a membership there for quite a long time. Continuing through the same shopping center, same parking lot, this Tequila House Mexican Kitchen used to be an Outback Steakhouse, which I ate at a few times while living here. And I'm pretty surprised to see that Mizu is still here. I figured that place was gone a long time ago. But yeah, I ate at Mizu maybe once, maybe twice at the most. But it's good. I just never really ate there much. And here's that Gold's Gym. This Planet Smoothie used to be a place called Smoothie King, because I remember getting some smoothies from there. Never been a big smoothie person, but anyway, it used to be a Smoothie King. That green awning used to be a place called High Five Frozen Yogurt. Came here all the time to get frozen yogurt from that place. Loved it. And this place right here, actually, the T-Mobile, used to be a Quiznos. And I used to get many sandwiches there too while I lived here. Okay, this next place is somewhere I may have shown before. This is Sidelines Bar and Grill here in St. Cloud. All this is in St. Cloud. I don't know why I keep saying here in St. Cloud, but that is a really cool place. And I believe I've shown it on one of my earlier videos. I ate here more times than I can count, which is not necessarily a great thing considering everything on that menu was fried, or at least it used to be. I remember being on a diet at one point many years ago when I lived here, going in there and looking over that menu. There was not a single thing on that menu I could eat according to the diet I was on. Everything was fried. There was no grilled chicken, non-fried anything. But this place is really neat. It's a sports bar style place. It's got more screens than you can count showing all the games. It's got a whole entire pool hall in the back with probably about 12 pool tables. Used to play here a lot, especially with an old friend of mine who's unfortunately since passed away. Used to play a lot of pool here, played through darts here, had a lot of fun. This is a really cool place. I even had my 50th birthday celebration in there. Really a lot of memories created in this little place. So the place I'm driving now, I haven't even seen a sign when I turned in. I turned into one of the alternate entrances, I guess, but this, when I was here, was called Crestwood Apartments. And this was the last place I lived before I moved out of St. Cloud the first time, which was, I moved in December of 2013 and moved out in March of 2014. This is, a cool little apartment. I lived here by myself for, like I said, only about 6 months because I ended up finding a better deal with a roommate. I do not remember what my address was here, but if I'm not completely off my rocker, that one might have been mine, right there on the corner. That one might have been where I lived, if I remember correctly. I don't know, it may not be. But I think that is, based on the proximity to the mailbox and the leasing office, which is there, I believe that was probably it. So the last place I lived in St. Cloud, after I moved out in 2014, I came back in 2015 until early 2016. And that house is the blue one right there. Lived there for about 8 months, probably 8 or 9 months. Really cool place. I lived there with a couple of my co-workers, one of which I explained passed away several years ago from cancer. But a really cool place to live. It was a nice place to be my final place to live in St. Cloud. So my first tenure in St. Cloud came to an end in basically the spring of 2014. Moved up to Orlando for just over a year, maybe 14 months. Then moved back to St. Cloud in the summer of 2015, maybe May of 2015, something like that. Then after that, I around January, February of 2016, I moved out of St. Cloud for the last time. That time I moved to Davenport, which is not the subject of today's video. This is now downtown St. Cloud. There's not a whole lot to it. But it's very indicative of small town Florida. Decided to get out, walk around a little bit. See a couple of the old places I used to go and hang out at. It really is a neat little downtown. Not too overrun, not too crazy busy. It has a cool charm to it. For those of you who don't know, and many of you who probably don't care, St. Cloud was founded back in 1909, officially founded in 1909. As a retirement home for Union Civil War veterans, which of course this is over 40 years after the end of the Civil War, so they would have to be very old Civil War veterans at that point. But yeah, that's how it got its start, and it's been here ever since. Across the street there is the St. Cloud Twin Theater. I saw many movies over there in the 10 years I lived here. A very old school theater from back in the day. Definitely not stadium seating, only 2 screens. Definitely has that old school charm to it. A lot of neat murals downtown, here in downtown St. Cloud as well. You know I can't resist a fountain. Now this used to be an old train depot for the Sugar Line train that ran in the late 1800s, even the 1880s for a short time. ran between Kissimmee and Narcoossee. And if you watch Jim Williams' videos, JWW on the Move, he just recently did a pretty in-depth video about that railroad. Check it out. Down at the end of New York Street is the St. Cloud City Hall. That was one of the perks of living here. When I would get my tags renewed, I would get it done right in there, and there was never a line, never any waiting. When you go to the regular DMVs in the bigger cities, you sometimes wait 45 minutes to an hour to get your license renewed. Here, I would just walk up to the counter, get it, and get out. It was very, very quick and painless. Now on the corner of 10th and New York, and this is the old St. Cloud Hotel. This is being refurbished. As you can see, there's some artistic renderings of what it's expected to look like. No idea when the completion date is on this. I've never stayed here because I lived here. I never had to stay here. But I did come down and have dinner once or twice in the restaurant. Interestingly, it was formed the year I moved here. And back behind me over here, that on the balcony of that apartment, there is you can't hear it now, but woo, there's a very heated argument taking place between a man and a woman. Yikes. Not good. Another historic mural showing what life was like here at 1929 on what was called then Joyland Beach. So one of the things I used to do that became an annual tradition for me was to attend the Civil War reenactment of the Battle of Narcoossee Mill. Now, this wasn't a real battle in the Civil War. It was just a way for the local Civil War buffs and from around the nation to kind of come together and have this reenactment here in Florida, because there wasn't a ton of activity in the Civil War in Florida. But they came up with this basically fictional Battle of Narcoossee Mill, and that played out right behind me here. So if I'm correct, they no longer do the reenactment. They used to do it every March for I think about 30 years that they did this, and I came several years in a row while I was living here. Probably at least 5, 6, 7 years in a row that I came here and saw this. Now, the place I'm standing right now, this is actually, I should back up, this is at Chisholm Park Trail. Chisholm Park is it's off of Narcoossee Road, east of St. Cloud, northeast of St. Cloud. And the area I'm actually standing in now is where the encampments were. So both Union and Rebel armies would set up their encampments in this area. And I used to come out here and talk to the soldiers and get their take on on doing the reenactments and just kind of how they got involved and things like that. Because I am, as I have, if whether I've mentioned it on this channel or not, I'm a huge Civil War buff. Going back many years. It's what got me interested in history in the first place. So yeah, I really enjoy Civil War history. So I would come out here, talk to these guys, do interviews with them, put them up on one of my old channels, or not one of my old channels, but an old website I used to run that's no longer around. And yeah, I got a great time with all of it. So we're gonna walk over here and just kind of see what's left of the battlefield. Check out these old trees. Looks like this one might have had some hurricane damage way back in the day to make it tilt over quite that dramatically. You can see some broken roots and things in there. So yeah, I imagine that is a formerly hurricane damaged tree, but as you can see, it's recovered well. It's thriving. I love these old trees like this. Very cool. So out here was one of the fields where the battles would take place. At one point they had bleachers set up along the side. I'm not sure the exact layout. Like it's been, gosh, at least 13, 14 years since I've attended one of these. And like I said, they don't do them anymore, but not sure of the exact spot where it used to be, but I know this is where the battle happened. But somewhere over here, they used to have bleachers set up where people could sit. It would get decent crowds out here. It was a pretty cool time. And because of the fact that it was a fictional battle, they didn't have to adhere to recreating an actual event or events within the battle. So they could basically make up what they wanted. It was a pretty cool idea. So one day the Confederate forces would win. On the second day, the Union forces would win, or vice versa. So they used to do that every year. It was like I said, it would start on Friday with the encampments. They would do a lot of work with local schools. Field trips would come out here on Friday, talk to the soldiers, see what it was like living in the 1800s and around the time of the Civil War. And then on Saturday and Sunday, they would have two battles, as it were. And yeah, it all played out right out here. There are a couple of sandhill cranes. You'll see these everywhere in Central Florida. These guys are awesome. Now this is East Lake Toho, upon which St. Cloud sits. All the way over that direction is where the main lakefront is for St. Cloud. Like I said, we are northeast, on the sort of the northeast outskirts of St. Cloud at this point, up Narcoossee Road a little ways. All right, well, that was the Battle of Narcoossee Mill. Let's move on to another spot. Up on the left here is Mount Peace Cemetery, the final resting place of Adam the Woo. I wanted to pay my respects. Now arrived at Veterans Park and Band Shell. Right here just off 192 and New York, downtown St. Cloud. From what I understand, they used to actually have concerts here. Don't recall ever seeing one when I was ever living here. Erected in 1952 with a high school band. And here's the park. So you can see a few things here. Some old decommissioned military vehicles. I'm going to choose this spot to wrap up the video. There was so much more that I could have covered. It's one of the things you don't quite realize, so you come back to a place and you're actually driving up and down the old streets again, that you realize there's so many more places. This doesn't even scratch the surface of places I used to go, places I used to eat, places I used to hang out in my 10 years here in St. Cloud. So maybe I'll just have to come back and do a part 2 one day. But for now, that'll do it. But this was a really cool, at least for me, trip down memory lane. My first exposure to Florida, as far as a resident, anyway. Really, it was neat. I'm glad that I did this. Again, picked a great day to do it weather-wise, and I hope you guys got something out of it too. I hope I dropped at least another little bit of history nuggets in there to make it interesting, and not just make it only about me. But I only know my own memories, so that's all I can really talk about much here. So that's going to be a wrap for today. So thanks again for watching, liking, subscribing, and vicariously enjoying this journey with me. And until next time, I'm done here.